My parents handed me a $52 family support bill, and Mom warned, pay $18K by Friday or your truck gets sold. Dad added, we'll add 20% interest until you learn respect. My brother laughed and my uncle called me a freeloader. I didn't argue. I simply left that night. 6 days later, my brother texted at 1:47 a.m. Dad opened the certified letter. Please pick up. The bill was laminated. That was the first thing I noticed. My father had taken a printed spreadsheet with 23 line items and fed it through the lamination machine at the church office, the same one they used for Sunday school name tags. He set it on the kitchen table between the mashed potatoes and the green beans, and my mother squared it so the edges lined up with the placemat. $52,000. My name at the top in bold. A signature line at the bottom with a date that was 6 days from now. Nobody was eating. My Uncle Lon was sitting across from me. He never came to Friday dinner. He worked late at the body shop most weeks and picked up takeout on his way home. But tonight he was in the chair my mother usually reserved for guests. His forearms flat on the table, watching my father the way someone watches a pitcher wind up. His knuckles were clean. He had scrubbed the grease out before he came. That took effort, and Lon did not spend effort on family dinners. Shane, my brother, sat next to him. 25 years old, still taking classes at the community college I was helping pay for. Still parking his shoes by the front door every night. He was looking at his plate like the meatloaf had something interesting to say. My father picked up the laminated sheet and slid it toward me across the tablecloth. Read it. 23 items. Mortgage contribution, shared groceries, health insurance supplement, utilities, car insurance co-pay, property tax allocation. Some of them I recognized because I had actually paid them. Some I had never heard of. Item 14 was labeled general household wear and was listed at $2,800. Item 19 said emotional and logistical support for $3,200. At the bottom, the total was printed in bold with a line underneath and the words amount due. You have been living under this roof for 4 years rent-free, my father said. He was sitting straight, both hands flat on the table, like he was chairing a board meeting at the plastics plant. This is what you owe this family. I turned the sheet over. The back was blank. No sources, no receipts, no math showing how he reached any of these numbers. Just 23 lines, a total, and a lamination seal that smelled like warm plastic. Lon leaned forward. Freeloader, he said. He did not look at me when he said it. He said it to the mashed potatoes like the word belonged to the table and not to a person. Shane laughed. One short breath through his nose, the kind that confirms something rather than reacting to it. He still had not looked up. My mother stood at the counter with her arms crossed. She had not sat down for dinner. She had been standing there since my father brought the sheet out from behind the bread basket, and I realized she had known it was coming. She had set the table around it. Every item on that bill is documented, my father said. He tapped the laminated sheet with one finger. Room, board, insurance, upkeep, 4 years of support that you never once acknowledged. Merle calculated it himself, Lon added. I checked the numbers. It is generous, if anything. My mother uncrossed her arms. 18,000 by next Friday, she said. Her voice was level. Practiced, first installment. Or I call Ray Jessup about your truck. He has been looking for a used pickup, and yours is sitting right there in the driveway. My father nodded once. We will add 20% interest until you learn respect. Then he said the rest of it. He said it sitting in the same chair he had sat in every night for 30 years, with the overhead light catching his forehead and a glass of iced tea sweating a ring onto the tablecloth. He said it in front of his brother, his son, and his wife. In the kitchen where I had washed dishes since I was 9 years old. You file invoices for $42,000 a year, and you think that buys you a seat at my table. No lease, no ring. You park in my driveway and eat from my refrigerator. You are not my daughter right now. You are an expense I never billed. Until tonight. The word that stayed was expense. Not the number, not the deadline, not the truck. Expense, like I was a line item he had been carrying on a balance sheet for 29 years and had finally decided to collect. I looked at my mother. She did not look away, but she did not add anything. Lon was leaning back in his chair with his arms crossed, satisfied, like a man who had come to watch a job get finished. Shane was picking at his meatloaf with the edge of his fork. The table was silent for 10 seconds after that. Lon picked up his fork and cut into his meatloaf like the conversation was finished and the meal was not. Glenda turned to the counter and started wrapping the leftover green beans in foil. Shane was still looking at his plate. Nobody looked at me. I had become furniture. I had been furniture the whole time, and the bill was just the invoice for the space I took up. My napkin went next to the plate, folded once. The chair pushed back without a sound. Nobody said a word. I walked down the hallway to my room and closed the door behind me. The duffel bag was in the closet, behind the winter coat. I packed it in 7 minutes. Clothes for a week, toiletry bag, charger, laptop. The folder of bank statements I kept in my desk drawer. I stayed because the math made sense. On $42,000 a year, no rent meant I could pay off the $26,000 truck in 3 years instead of 5. 8 payments at $485 each, and I would have my own title, my own insurance, my own address. I should have spent the extra $400 a month on a studio apartment and left 2 years ago. I know that now. On my desk, next to a jar of pens, sat my grandmother's receipt spike. Metal spike on a round wooden base, slightly tarnished, the tip blunted from 22 years of use. She ran a fabric shop on Depot Street until she was 71, and every transaction went through that spike. She gave it to me on my 10th birthday and said, "Keep track of everything." People forget what you gave them. I wrapped it in a flannel shirt and put it in the duffel. At 11:04 that night, I pulled out of the driveway. The kitchen light was on. Through the window, I could see my father's silhouette at the table, the laminated bill flat in front of him. Lon's truck was still parked at the curb. They were probably talking about how well it went. I turned left on Ridgecrest and did not look at the house again. If this story already has you clenching your fists, hit subscribe to Betrayal Unfolded, because Alma is just getting started. Britt answered the door in sweatpants and a company polo she had not changed out of. It was almost midnight. She looked at the duffel, looked at my face, and did not ask a single question. She handed me a blanket, a phone charger, and pointed at the couch. "It pulls out," she said. Then she went to the kitchen, filled a glass of water, set it on the side table next to the couch, and went back to her room. That was Britt. She would ask in the morning. Right now, she would let me sleep. Saturday morning, her kitchen table became my workspace. I opened my banking app on the laptop and started pulling transfer records. 4 years of history. Every deposit I had made into the family checking account, every Venmo to my mother for groceries and gas, every direct charge on my debit card at the grocery store within a mile of the house. Britt sat across from me with a yellow legal pad and a pen she had taken from the office supply drawer. She did not offer commentary or comfort. She wrote dates in one column and amounts in the other, drawing a line after each quarter like she was reconciling an accounts receivable ledger. We did this for a living. The skills transferred. The receipt spike stood on the counter between the toaster and a stack of napkins. I had set it there the night before without deciding where it belonged. As I found receipts in my email and printed them on Britt's home printer, the paper ones went on the spike. Grocery runs from the store on Pine Boulevard. The $340 deposit for the water heater when the old one flooded the basement. The copay receipt from my mother's root canal, the one she said she would pay me back for by Christmas. Christmas came and went. So did the next one. Britt found a paper receipt in my folder from 14 months ago. She held it up between 2 fingers and read the total, the date, and the store name. You bought their Thanksgiving turkey, she said, with your debit card. At Kroger. You were 27. She did not say that is terrible, or how could they? She added the receipt to the stack on the counter and picked up the next bank statement. That is why I trusted Brit. She did not narrate my pain, she organized my evidence. By noon, we had 23 transfers documented. Bank statements with highlighted lines, digital receipts with timestamps. What is the total? Brit asked. She had the legal pad turned sideways, adding the quarterly columns. 37,000. Brit set the pen down. You gave them $37,000 in 4 years and they billed you 52. They billed me for existing in the house I was keeping afloat. Alma, she picked the pen back up. We are putting this in a letter. The total was $37,000 over 4 years. Mortgage help, $4,200 across 3 emergency months when my father's hours were cut at the plastics plant. Groceries, roughly $60 a week for 4 years, $12,480. My father's truck transmission repair, $3,400. Shane's community college tuition, $6,200 in direct payments to the registrar's office. 8 months of gas and electric when the utility company sent a shutoff notice, $4,800. My mother's dental work, 2 procedures, $2,400. Roof patch after the January ice storm, $3,520. Every cent traceable, every cent flowing in one direction. From my checking account to their household. My father had billed me $52,000 for existing in his house. I had given them $37,000 for keeping it standing. Sunday morning, I drove back to the house while my parents were at church. I needed the rest of my clothes, my winter coat from the hall closet, and a pair of boots I had left in the mudroom. The driveway was empty except for Shane's car. He was asleep. I could hear him through the bedroom door, the low rattle of someone who fell asleep with his phone playing a video. The house was quiet in the way houses are when nobody expects you to be in them. And it felt different from the inside when you are no longer a resident. The kitchen table still had the ring from my father's iced tea glass. The green beans were gone, but the smell of them was still in the curtains. I packed 2 bags in 12 minutes. The winter coat, 3 pairs of work pants, the boots from the mudroom. A box of envelopes from my desk drawer that had bank statements I had not brought on Friday night because I was not thinking about evidence then. I was thinking about leaving. On my way out, I stopped at my father's recliner. His iPad was on the side table, plugged into the charger I had bought him 2 Christmases ago. I had set up the device myself. Paired it to his phone, synced the iCloud, created the passcode. He asked me to type it in for him so many times that he never bothered to change it. 4 digits. His birth year. I opened messages and searched for Lon's name. 31 messages going back 4 months. Not casual brother-to-brother texts about football or the shop. Planning messages. Pricing messages. Messages about me. The one from March 14 said, "She will not fight it. She never does." Lon's reply, sent 11 minutes later, "Just make sure the number looks right. She will not check the math." A message from April 2nd showed Merle asking Lon to come Friday and back me up. Lon replied with a thumbs up emoji. 1 emoji. That is what my humiliation was worth to him. A thumbs up and a clean pair of knuckles. They had been planning the bill since March, 2 months before the dinner. While I was buying groceries and covering Shane's spring semester tuition, my father and his brother were building a spreadsheet designed to trap me at the kitchen table. But the texts were not the worst of it. I opened the family checking account on the iPad browser, the account I had access to because I was the one making deposits into it every month. I scrolled through the incoming transactions for the past 3 years, looking for anything I might have missed, and there it was. A pattern I had never noticed because I had never had a reason to look. $500 from Lon Fisk. Every month. 30 months running. $15,000 total. I scrolled back through the deposits slowly. January, $500. February, $500. March, 500. Every month like clockwork deposited on the 15th, without fail. Lon owed Merle money. A personal debt, origin unclear, repaid in quiet monthly installments that nobody mentioned at family dinners. And my father had folded that $15,000 into the $52,000 bill he handed me on a Friday night. Somewhere in those 23 line items, buried between property tax allocation and emotional and logistical support, was Lon's debt wearing my name. The uncle who leaned across the dinner table and called me a freeloader was the family member who actually owed money. The man who scrubbed the grease from his knuckles to sit in a guest chair and watch my father humiliate me had a $15,000 tab of his own running in the background, and he knew it. And he called me a freeloader anyway. I screenshotted every text, every bank transfer, every monthly deposit with Lon's name attached. I saved them to a secure folder on my phone, set the iPad back on the recliner exactly where it had been, and walked out of the house with 2 bags and a box of envelopes. I drove to Brit's apartment with the windows down because my hands were tight on the wheel and the April air was the only thing that loosened them. Monday morning, before work, I drove to the police precinct on Haver Street. The officer at the intake window was a woman with short gray hair and a coffee cup that said "World's Okayest Dispatcher." "I need to file a report," I said. "My parents have threatened to sell my truck. It is titled solely in my name." "Do you have the title with you?" I set it on the counter. My name, sole owner. No cosigner. No lien held by any family member. She looked at it, looked at my license, and started typing. Did they make the threat verbally or in writing? Verbally, in front of 3 witnesses. My mother named a specific buyer. She typed for another minute. "If anyone attempts to sell, transfer, or restrict access to your vehicle without your authorization," she said, "you bring this number back and we file for criminal conversion." She circled the case number in blue ink and handed me the report. I folded it into my bag. That afternoon, I sat across from Hodge in his office on the 2nd floor of a building that shared a parking lot with a dry cleaner. Brit had used him for a lease dispute the year before and said he was thorough without being theatrical. His desk was covered in folders and his coffee had gone cold. I spread the documents across the only clear space, the laminated bill, the 23 bank transfers totaling $37,000, the iPad screenshots showing Lon's $15,000 repayment pattern, the Merle Lon planning texts, and the police report from that morning. Hodge picked up the laminated sheet and turned it over. He held it by the edges the way someone holds a parking ticket they did not earn. He read all 23 items. He set it down and aligned it with the edge of his desk. "This has 0 legal standing," he said. "A parent cannot unilaterally fabricate a debt for raising a child. There is no contract, no signed agreement, no promissory note, no consideration, no meeting of the minds. This is a kitchen table document with a lamination seal." "They are serious about collecting it," I said. "They can be as serious as they want. The law does not recognize it. There is no mechanism to enforce this. No court would entertain it. Can they sell my truck? Not legally. Title is sole ownership in your name. No cosigner, no lien held by them, no shared registration. The police report you filed this morning turns any attempt into a criminal matter, not a civil one." That was smart. He read through the 23 bank transfers and the highlighted totals. He cross-referenced 2 of them against the dates on the laminated bill. Then he picked up the Lon screenshots and read them once, set them down, picked them up, and read them again. "This is interesting," he said. "This $15,000 changes the math on the bill significantly. It means the stated amount is inflated by a third party's debt. Can you include that in the letter?" "I can do better than include it. I can demand accounting on it. A formal request for clarification on whether the $52,000 figure includes repayments from a third party. If your father responds, he admits the number was padded. If he does not respond, the silence speaks." "What about the truck?" "Covered on page 2. Cease and desist referencing your title and the police report. Anyone who touches that vehicle is committing a crime, and they will know it. He tapped the screenshot with his pen. I can have this drafted by end of day. The certified letter was 4 pages on his letterhead. Page 1, counter itemization. 23 transfers totaling $37,000 over 4 years, each with a date, an amount, and a purpose. Bank statements attached as exhibits. Page 2, cease and desist on the truck. VIN number, title reference, police report case number. Any attempt to sell, impound, damage, or restrict access would be treated as criminal conversion. Page 3, a demand for accounting. If the $52,000 figure includes transfers received from Lawn Fisk, please clarify, as those transactions are documented in the attached bank records. The $15,000 grenade, buried in polite legal language. Page 4. All voluntary contributions to the household cease immediately, effective this date. All future contact through Hodge's office. The letter went into the mail Monday afternoon. Certified return receipt requested. Tuesday evening, I was at Brit's kitchen table with my laptop open to an apartment listing on Cedar Street. $875 a month. Available June 1st. I was running the numbers on 8 remaining truck payments at $485 each. $3,880 left on the loan. The end of it was visible from where I sat. Brit was in the kitchen making pasta, and I could hear the water starting to boil. The knock came at 7:15. Brit looked at me. I looked at the door. Nobody knocked on Brit's apartment door on a Tuesday evening. She wiped her hands on a towel, walked to the door, and checked the peephole. Her shoulders dropped 2 inches. "It is your mother," she said. Glenda was standing in the hallway with her purse over one shoulder and her phone in her hand. She looked past Brit the moment the door opened, scanning the apartment until she found me at the table. "Shane saw your Instagram story," she said. The bookshelf in the background. He recognized Brit's apartment. I closed the laptop. Glenda stepped inside without waiting to be invited. Brit stayed by the door with her hand on the knob and her jaw tight. Glenda set her purse on the kitchen counter and turned to face me. "Your father is serious about the truck, Alma. He already called Ray Jessup. Ray came by the house yesterday and looked at it in the driveway. The truck is titled in my name," I said. "I already filed a police report. If Ray or anyone else touches that truck, the case number is on file at the Haver Street precinct." Glenda blinked twice. The police report was not in her script. She had come to deliver a threat, and the threat had a wall in front of it. "You filed a police report against your own family. I filed a report to protect my property." Glenda looked at Brit, then at me, then at the kitchen table where my laptop was open to the Cedar Street apartment listing. She could see the rent amount on the screen. $875. She could see what I was doing. She could see that I was not coming back. She shifted her weight and held her purse against her side. "All your father is asking is that you contribute what is fair. 18,000 is a fair number for 4 years of room and board. I contributed $37,000 in 4 years. Mom, grocery money. Utilities, Dad's truck transmission. Shane's tuition. The roof. I have every bank transfer documented and time-stamped. That was voluntary. That was family helping family. Then, so was the room. It is not the same thing, Alma. You are right. My contributions have receipts. Your bill has a lamination seal." Brit, still standing by the door, looked at the floor. She did not smile, but the corner of her mouth moved. Glenda saw it. "This is a family matter," Glenda said to Brit. "I would appreciate some privacy. This is my apartment," Brit said. She did not move from the door. Glenda's mouth tightened. She had not expected resistance from 2 directions. She turned toward the door, and then she stopped. She turned back to face me. and she said the sentence that changed everything I understood about the Friday dinner, the laminated bill, and the 23 line items my father had presented as a debt. If you had kept quiet about moving out, none of this would have happened. She said it the way someone says the thing they have been sitting on for a week, tired, like holding it served no purpose anymore. 2 weeks before the dinner, I had told my mother I was 8 payments from paying off the truck. I told her I was looking at a studio apartment on Cedar Street. I told her I could move by June. The bill arrived at the table 6 days later. $18,000 by Friday or the truck gets sold. 20% interest on the balance, a cage built out of numbers on a laminated page designed to keep me in the house, paying their mortgage and their utilities and their son's tuition for as long as the math held me down. They were not collecting a debt, they were punishing an exit. I looked at my mother. "You did not bill me because I was a freeloader," I said. "You billed me because you knew that once I left, nobody would pay the electric bill, or Shane's tuition, or the next roof repair. You never saw me as a daughter. You saw me as a payment plan." I paused, and the plan is canceled. Glenda walked out without closing the door. Britt closed it, locked the deadbolt, and leaned against the frame. "She just told you everything," Britt said. "The bill was because you were leaving. The bill was because I was leaving. So what do you want to do? I want the letter to arrive before Friday. If you think you know how this ends, subscribe to Betrayal Unfolded, because the certified letter has not landed yet." Thursday afternoon. The USPS carrier left a certified envelope on the doorstep. Return receipt requested. Merle signed for it when he got home from the plant. He probably assumed it was from the county tax office or the insurance company. He tossed it on the kitchen table and opened it after dinner with a butter knife. 4 pages. Hodges letterhead in navy ink. Every receipt, every transfer, every question about lawn. The truck. The police report number. The termination. I found out later, much later, what happened inside that kitchen. Shane told me in a text 2 months after everything settled, when he was working weekend shifts at a grocery store and had time to think about what he had laughed at. He said Merle read the first page standing up. He read the second page sitting down. By the third page, his hand was flat on the table and he had stopped turning pages. He just stared at Lon's name. Glenda took the letter from him and read it at the counter with her back to the table. She did not say a single word. She refolded the pages, put them back in the envelope, and set the envelope on the counter next to the refrigerator where the laminated bill was held up by a magnet. Shane read the letter after they went to bed. At 1:47 in the morning, my phone screen lit up on Britt's kitchen counter. The buzz was loud enough to reach me on the pulled-out couch. I walked to the counter in the dark and picked up the phone. "Shane, Dad opened the certified letter. Please pick up." 3 dots appeared. He was typing again. "He is in the kitchen. Mom will not talk to him. Please call me." I read both messages standing in Britt's kitchen with the linoleum cold under my feet. Shane had never texted me at 1:47 in the morning. He had never used the word please twice in a row. The receipt spike was on the counter 3 feet from my phone. I opened my wallet and pulled out the USPS delivery receipt, the green card with Merle's signature confirming he had received the envelope. I pressed the receipt onto the spike. Delivery confirmed. The spike held the proof that the letter had landed. I set my phone face down on the counter and went back to sleep. The brother who laughed at my humiliation on a Friday night was now typing please twice at 1:47 in the morning. He got his answer in the silence. 2 blue check marks and nothing after them. Friday morning. The original deadline. The day I was supposed to hand over $18,000 or lose my truck. Instead, I drove to the house at 8:30 to pick up the last box from the garage. Winter clothes, a few books, the slow cooker Britt had given me 3 birthdays ago. The April air was cool and the driveway looked the same as it always did. My truck fit in the spot where it had always been. One difference, Ray Jessup's business card was tucked under the windshield wiper. I pulled it off and put it in my pocket. The neighbor across the street, Mrs. Pham, was collecting her mail. She raised a hand. I waved back. Merle was on the porch. He was holding the letter. The 4 pages were slightly bent from being read and reread, the creases going soft at the folds. He stood up from the porch chair when he heard the truck door close. "We need to talk about this letter," he said. "Talk to Hodge." I walked toward the garage. He came down the steps and moved to the side, not quite blocking the path but making me adjust my angle. "I am not calling a lawyer over family business. You laminated a bill, Dad. You made it business." His jaw worked. He looked down at the letter, then at me, then at the street where Mrs. Pham was standing with her mailbox open. He lowered his voice. "The thing with Lon," he said, "that was separate. That is between me and him. You added it to my bill. You put his debt next to my name. That makes it mine." "Alma, you do not understand the full picture. Page 1 of the letter has 23 transfers, dates, amounts, and bank records attached. Page 3 has Lon's deposits, $500 a month for 30 months. I watched his face as I listed what the letter contained. He had read it. He knew I had all of it. Which part of the picture am I missing? He shifted the letter to his other hand. "Sit down and let me explain. I have been listening for 4 years. I stopped walking. I turned and faced him fully. The porch was 3 steps above the driveway, and he was standing at the top like he still had the height advantage. You billed me for groceries I bought with my own debit card. You billed me for 8 months of utility payments I made when the gas company sent you a shutoff notice. You billed me for a roof I helped fix in January with my own money. And you added $15,000 that Lon owes you, folded it into a laminated spreadsheet with my name at the top, and presented it at the dinner table in front of your brother while he called me a freeloader." Merle opened his mouth. Nothing came. He tried again. Lon was going to pay that back. That was a personal arrangement. He was paying it back. $500 a month, into the same account I was depositing money into. You just decided I should cover the balance faster. That is not what happened. Then explain item 7 on the bill, and item 12, and item 16. Explain the $3,200 for emotional and logistical support. Explain how you put a price tag on raising your own daughter and then padded it with your brother's loan. He had no answer for that. He looked at the letter again as if the 4 pages might offer him something he had missed. 4 years, I said. Every month, money left my account and went into yours. What you could not cover, what Shane could not cover. A roof over a house that was never mine, and groceries for a table where I was not welcome. And on a Friday night, you laminated a bill for the privilege and invited your brother to watch me take it. Shane was standing at the screen door. I could see his outline through the mesh. He had his hand on the frame. He did not push the door open. You laminated a bill for raising me. I have 4 years of deposit slips. Your total is wrong by $15,000. Ask Lon. The silence after the word Lon lasted 4 seconds. I counted. My father's hand, the one holding the letter, dropped to his side. The pages bent against his thigh, curling at the corners. His mouth opened, closed, opened again, and there was nothing behind it. No defense, no explanation, no counter number. He stepped backward off the porch step and caught himself on the railing with his free hand. The railing creaked. His knuckles whitened on the wood the same way Lon's had been clean at the dinner table, and I thought about how these 2 brothers had scrubbed and prepared and staged every detail of that Friday night. This was the man who had sat at the head of this table for 30 years. And now a 4-page letter and a police report had turned his authority to dust. He had nothing left in his defense, not one word. "The transfers stopped today," I said. "Groceries, electric, Shane's tuition. Every dollar I put into this house is documented in that letter. Every receipt, every bank statement, every date. If anyone touches the truck, the police report number is on page 3. Mrs. Pham had stopped sorting her mail. She was standing at her open mailbox with an envelope in one hand, watching us across the street. She did not pretend to look away. The screen door opened. Glenda came out, walked past Merle, who was still holding the railing, and followed me to the driveway. She had changed out of her church office clothes into something softer, and her voice had the careful pitch of a sentence she had practiced in the bathroom mirror. "Alma, I am sorry you felt attacked." She paused. She was waiting for me to say something, and I did not. "But you have to understand. We sacrificed for you. All we are asking is that you contribute what is fair." I opened my phone, pulled up the screenshots folder. 2 images, the texts between Merle and Lon. March 14, she will not fight it. She never does. Lon's reply, just make sure the number looks right. I selected both and sent them to Glenda's phone number. Her phone buzzed in her hand. She lifted it, read the screen, and her mouth flattened into a line that had no apology and no defense and no carefully practiced second sentence. She looked at Merle on the porch. He was looking at the letter. He was not looking at her. Merle was still on the porch. The letter was in both hands now, the pages creased and soft, and he was looking at it like it might say something different if he read it one more time. He did not call after me. He did not say my name. He stood there holding the document that answered his document, and for the first time in 4 years, he had nothing to add to the bill. I walked to the garage, picked up the box, set it in the truck bed next to the spare tire, got in. Ray Jessup's business card was still in my pocket. I pulled it out, tore it once down the middle, and dropped both halves into the cup holder. I pulled out of the driveway and turned left on Ridgecrest. In the side mirror, Mrs. Pham was still at her mailbox, holding her envelopes in one hand, watching the truck until it cleared the stop sign at the end of the block. Behind her, at the house, Shane slowly pulled the screen door closed. The latch caught with a small sound that carried across the quiet morning, and it was the last thing I heard from that porch. That Saturday, Merle walked down the hallway to my old room. The door was open. The desk was bare, just a clean rectangle in the dust where something had sat for years. The nail where I hung my work lanyard was empty, a small hole in the drywall with nothing on it. The closet door was open. The hangers were evenly spaced on the rod, each one catching a thin line of light from the window with nothing on them. He stood in the doorway with his hand on the frame for a full minute. He did not step inside. Monday, lunch break. I opened my banking app and went down the list. Grocery contribution, $240 per month. Canceled electric and gas share, $200. Canceled Shane's tuition installment, $517. Canceled Merle's truck insurance supplement, $150. Canceled $107 per month. $13,284 per year. Gone, I screenshotted each confirmation and saved them in a folder labeled closed. Set the phone face down on the break room table and finished my sandwich. Later that week, Lon stopped answering Merle's calls. Merle had called him the morning after the letter, demanding to know how I found out about the transfers. He shouted loud enough that Lon's wife heard it from the next room. She had not known about the $15,000. She had not known about the dinner. She packed 2 suitcases that same night. Lon, the man who called other people freeloaders, was sleeping on his own couch by Thursday. His wife called Glenda once. The conversation lasted 4 minutes. They have not spoken since. The following Sunday, a woman from Glenda's Bible study group asked her one question after the service. "Glenda, did you really bill your own daughter for raising her?" Shane had mentioned the bill to a friend at the grocery store. The friend's mother attended the same Bible study. The story traveled the way church stories travel, which is quickly and with every detail preserved. Glenda did not have an answer that sounded right outside the kitchen where the bill was made. She stopped attending for 3 weeks. When she came back, she sat in the last row and left before the closing prayer. Shane applied for financial aid that week. His tuition installment was 3 months overdue, and the registrar put a hold on his fall enrollment. He started working Saturday and Sunday shifts at a grocery store 4 miles from the house, scanning barcodes on Thanksgiving turkeys that other people's daughters were buying. 2 weeks after the porch, Merle's kitchen table had 3 things on it. The certified letter, read so many times the creases were going soft. The May electric bill, stamped past due in red. And his phone, screen up, showing a missed call from Lon that he had not returned. The laminated $52,000 bill was still on the refrigerator door, held in place by a cross-shaped magnet. Nobody had taken it down. Nobody had mentioned it. If you have ever been the one everyone leaned on and then blamed for standing up straight, subscribe to Betrayal Unfolded and share this story with someone who needs to hear it. My studio apartment is 800 square feet on the 2nd floor of a building that smells like laundry detergent and somebody's evening coffee. 1 bedroom with a window that faces east. 1 bathroom with a lock that works. A kitchenette counter barely wide enough for a cutting board and a toaster. The lease has my name on it, just mine. The receipt spike sits next to the toaster. Tarnished metal catching the morning light through the window above the sink. 1 receipt on it, the bank confirmation showing the last canceled transfer. My grandmother kept her records on metal and paper. Their bill was laminated plastic with nothing behind it. The spike outlasted the bill. My truck is in the parking lot with a clear title. 4 payments left. I fill the coffee maker and wait for the drip. The mug is the only one in the cabinet. It holds 12 ounces of coffee and it is mine. The quiet in this apartment is small and steady. 1 receipt on a spike defeated a $52,000 bill on a refrigerator. And the debt they owe me is one they will carry for a long time.